Imagine this. You stand at the edge of a vast, ancient forest. Its trees stretch endlessly into the sky, their gnarled roots gripping the earth like fingers clutching for eternity. The air is heavy with silence, not the absence of sound, but a presence so profound it presses against your chest. Somewhere deep within this labyrinth lies a throne, cold and unyielding, waiting for someone to claim it. But here's the paradox. To sit upon that throne means not only authority over others, but dominion over yourself. And what if you're not ready? What if the weight of power crushes those who dare wield it without purpose? Now ask yourself, what does it mean to think with power? Is it ambition, control, or something far more subtle, yet infinitely more transformative? Most people chase external markers of success, wealth, titles, influence. Yet history whispers cautionary tales of kings who ruled empires, but lost themselves in the process. They had all the trappings of sovereignty, yet none of its essence. Why do some leaders inspire legacies while others crumble under the very crowns they fought to wear? The truth is unsettling. Power isn't merely about control. It begins in the mind. It starts with how you perceive yourself, your place in the world, and the forces that shape your decisions. And here lies the great question we must confront. Are you truly thinking with clarity, or are you simply reacting to shadows cast by fear, doubt, and societal conditioning? Consider Carl Jung's insight into the human psyche, the interplay between light and shadow, consciousness and unconsciousness. He argued that true leadership doesn't come from suppressing weakness. It arises when one integrates these opposing forces. A king, or anyone seeking mastery over their life, must first become sovereign within themselves. But why does this inner work feel so elusive? Why do most people avoid it altogether, even as they yearn for meaning and direction? Pause for a moment. Reflect on your own life. How often have you acted out of fear rather than conviction? How many times have you followed paths laid out by others because it felt safer than forging your own? Society trains us to seek approval, to conform, to shrink ourselves until we fit neatly into predefined roles. But where does that leave your authentic voice? Where does that leave your ability to lead, not just others, but yourself, with courage and purpose? Here's another unsettling thought. What if the modern world has stripped away our capacity to think like kings? In an age dominated by distractions, instant gratification, and endless noise, we've been conditioned to react rather than reflect. Our minds are cluttered with trivialities, leaving little room for the kind of deep, deliberate thought required to navigate life's complexities. We scroll through social media feeds, consuming fragments of wisdom without ever pausing to integrate them into our being. Is it any wonder we feel disconnected, not only from the world around us, but from ourselves? And yet, buried beneath layers of conditioning lies a dormant potential. Every human being carries within them the archetype of the king, the part of the psyche that seeks order, meaning, and mastery. This archetype isn't reserved for literal rulers. It exists in everyone who dares to take responsibility for their existence. But activating it requires more than mere intention. It demands self-awareness, discipline, and a willingness to face uncomfortable truths. So let me ask again, are you ready to step into the forest, to confront the shadows lurking within and emerge stronger, wiser, and more whole? Because the journey ahead won't be easy. It will force you to question everything you've been taught about power, purpose, and identity. It will challenge you to redefine what it means to lead, not just outwardly, but inwardly. But before we venture deeper, consider this. The throne isn't just a symbol of authority, it's a mirror. It reflects not only who you are, but who you could become. Will you rise to meet it, or will you turn away, content to remain in the safety of mediocrity? The choice is yours, but beware. Once you glimpse the possibility of true sovereignty, there's no going back. Let's begin unraveling the mystery together. Let's explore the psychology behind the archetype of the king and uncover how Carl Jung's insights can teach us to think with power and purpose. For in doing so, we may discover not only how to rule our lives, but also how to transform the world around us. The forest grows darker now, its shadows stretching long across your path. Each step feels heavier than the last, as though the weight of unseen forces presses down upon you. You begin to notice something strange. The trees seem alive, not in the way living things grow and die, but in the way they whisper secrets to one another. Their murmurs echo faintly, carrying fragments of words that sound eerily familiar. These are not external voices. They belong to you. They rise from the depths of your unconscious, where forgotten fears, desires, and doubts lie dormant, waiting for the right moment to awaken. This is the hidden problem, the root cause of why so many fail to think with power and purpose. It isn't merely a lack of knowledge or skill, it's an internal fragmentation. Modern psychology calls it dissociation, but Carl Jung named it more poetically, the split between the ego and the self. The ego, he argued, is the conscious part of us, the persona we present to the world. It seeks validation, control, and safety. But beneath it lies the vast expanse of the unconscious, teeming with archetypes, symbols, and energies that shape our behavior in ways we rarely understand. When these two realms remain disconnected, we become prisoners of our own minds, reacting impulsively rather than acting with intention. Think about the kings of history, those who ruled wisely versus those who fell into ruin. What separated them wasn't intelligence or resources, it was their relationship with their inner worlds. A wise king understood that true sovereignty begins by confronting the chaos within. He didn't shy away from his shadow, the darker aspects of himself that society deemed unacceptable. Instead, he embraced it, integrating its lessons into his being. This act of reconciliation transformed him from a mere ruler into a vessel of balance and order. Without this integration, even the most powerful leader becomes a puppet, pulled by strings they cannot see. But here's the crux of the issue. Modern society has made this process nearly impossible. From childhood, we're taught to suppress anything deemed weak or undesirable. Boys are told not to cry. Girls are encouraged to be agreeable. Ambition is praised, vulnerability shamed. Over time, these societal pressures carve deep grooves into our psyches, forcing us to construct rigid personas that align with external expectations. We bury our authentic selves beneath layers of armor, believing this will protect us. Yet what we fail to realize is that this armor also imprisons us. It isolates us from our deeper truths, leaving us adrift in a sea of superficiality. Friedrich Nietzsche captured this dilemma perfectly when he wrote, "He who fights monsters should look to it that he himself does not become a monster." And if you gaze long into an abyss, the abyss also gazes into you. The monster Nietzsche speaks of isn't some external force, it's the disowned parts of ourselves. When we deny our shadows, they don't disappear. They fester, manifesting as anger, addiction, or self-sabotage. The abyss isn't just a metaphor for despair. It's the void created when we refuse to confront the unknown corners of our psyche. True power comes not from avoiding this abyss, but from diving straight into it, armed with the lantern of self-awareness. Arthur Schopenhauer took this idea further, arguing that life itself is governed by blind, irrational forces, what he called the will. This will drives us to pursue pleasure, avoid pain, and seek survival at all costs. Yet it operates outside our conscious control, pulling us toward outcomes we neither desire nor understand. In this sense, most people live as slaves to their instincts, unaware that freedom requires mastering the will through introspection and discipline. A king, or anyone striving for mastery, must learn to tame this primal energy, channeling it toward higher purposes. And then there's Aldous Huxley, whose dystopian vision in Brave New World warns of a future where humanity sacrifices depth for comfort. His characters live in a society engineered to eliminate suffering, yet they've lost their capacity for genuine thought, emotion, and connection. Huxley understood that convenience breeds complacency, that when we outsource our struggles to systems designed for efficiency, we forfeit our ability to grow. Today, this prophecy feels eerily prescient. Social media algorithms feed us endless streams of curated perfection, numbing us to the messy beauty of real life. We scroll endlessly, mistaking consumption for creation, distraction for fulfillment. Jean-Paul Sartre added another layer to this critique, asserting that existence precedes essence. In other words, there is no predetermined meaning to life. We must create it ourselves. Yet how can we craft meaning if we're too busy running from ourselves? Sartre believed that authenticity arises only when we accept total responsibility for our choices, even the painful ones. A king doesn't blame fate, circumstance, or others for his failures. He takes ownership knowing that every decision shapes the kingdom he builds within. Viktor Frankl, survivor of Nazi concentration camps, offered perhaps the most hopeful perspective. Amid unimaginable suffering, he discovered that meaning could be found even in the darkest moments. His theory of logotherapy posits that humans are driven by a will to meaning, a desire to transcend personal pain and contribute to something greater. For Frankl, the ultimate act of sovereignty wasn't controlling external conditions, but finding purpose despite them. A king understands this truth instinctively. Power isn't about domination, it's about service. To oneself, to others, to the collective good. Now consider the implications of these insights. If power begins in the mind, then the greatest obstacle isn't external resistance, but internal conflict. Until we reconcile the fragmented pieces of ourselves, we remain trapped in cycles of reaction and regret. We chase goals set by others, suppress emotions deemed inconvenient, and cling to identities that no longer serve us. All the while, the throne sits empty, waiting for someone brave enough to claim it, not through force, but through transformation. But here's the paradox. The very tools needed to heal this fragmentation are the ones we've been taught to fear. Vulnerability, stillness, reflection. These practices feel dangerous because they strip away the illusions we've built around ourselves. They expose the raw, unfiltered truth of who we are, and yet without them, we cannot hope to integrate our shadows, master our instincts, or create meaning in a chaotic world. So ask yourself again, are you willing to face the whispers in the forest? To unravel the tangled threads of your psyche and weave them into something stronger, more coherent? Because until you do, the throne remains out of reach, not because it's unworthy of you, but because you are unworthy of it. The whispers in the forest grow louder now, swirling around you like a storm. They carry fragments of memories, moments when you chose comfort over courage, conformity over authenticity. Each echo feels heavier than the last, pressing against your chest until it becomes hard to breathe. And then you realize these aren't just echoes, they're consequences. Invisible, insidious, and far-reaching, they've been shaping your life without your awareness. This is the unseen cost of ignoring the call to sovereignty, the price paid for leaving the throne empty. Let's begin with the most pervasive consequence, the erosion of agency. When you fail to confront your inner chaos, you surrender control, not to others, but to forces within yourself that operate below the threshold of consciousness. Cognitive biases take the wheel, steering you toward decisions that feel safe but lead nowhere meaningful. Confirmation bias blinds you to truths that challenge your worldview. The sunk cost fallacy keeps you tethered to paths long abandoned by your heart. And the Dunning-Kruger effect convinces you that you know more than you do, trapping you in cycles of stagnation. These mental shortcuts aren't flaws. They're survival mechanisms honed over millennia. But in a world as complex as ours, they become chains, binding you to patterns of thought and behavior that no longer serve you. Now imagine how this plays out on a societal level. Entire cultures can be shaped by collective unconscious forces, what Carl Jung called the collective shadow. Think about the rise of authoritarian regimes throughout history. What drives populations to trade freedom for security, individuality for conformity? It isn't logic or reason, it's fear, a primal response rooted in the unacknowledged shadows of both leaders and followers. When people refuse to face their own darkness, they project it onto others, creating scapegoats and villains. The result is polarization, hatred, and violence, all symptoms of an unresolved internal conflict played out on a global stage. But perhaps the most devastating consequence is the loss of meaning. Viktor Frankl argued that humans are wired to seek purpose, yet modern society has stripped away the structures that once provided it. Religion, community, tradition, these were not perfect systems, but they offered frameworks for understanding existence. Today, many have replaced them with materialism, consumerism, and digital validation. The problem isn't that these substitutes are inherently bad, it's that they lack depth. A life built on likes, shares, and possessions leaves a void that no amount of external success can fill. And so, we chase endlessly, never realizing that what we truly crave is connection to ourselves, to others, to something greater than ourselves. This void manifests differently for everyone. Some turn to addiction, using substances or behaviors to numb the pain of emptiness. Others double down on achievement, believing that accolades will finally bring peace. Still others withdraw entirely, retreating into isolation as a defense against a world that feels increasingly hostile. None of these strategies work because none address the root cause, the disconnection between who you are and who you pretend to be. Until you bridge this gap, the ache remains, gnawing at your soul like a wolf circling its prey. Consider the psychological toll of living this way. Chronic stress, anxiety, depression. These aren't just personal struggles, they're societal epidemics. Gabor Mate, drawing on decades of work with trauma survivors, argues that much of human suffering stems from unmet emotional needs. When children grow up in environments where vulnerability is punished and authenticity is shamed, they learn to suppress their true selves. Over time, this suppression manifests as physical illness, mental health disorders, and relational dysfunction. The body keeps the score, as Mate says, storing every unexpressed emotion until it erupts in ways impossible to ignore. And yet, even those who recognize the damage often struggle to break free. Why? Because the systems we live in are designed to keep us stuck. Capitalism thrives on consumption, encouraging endless pursuit of products and experiences that promise happiness but deliver fleeting satisfaction. Social media algorithms exploit dopamine pathways, keeping users hooked on novelty and comparison. Education systems prioritize conformity over creativity, training students to memorize facts rather than think critically. All of these forces conspire to keep you distracted, disconnected, and dependent, ensuring that the throne remains vacant while the forest grows darker. Here's the crux of the matter. The unseen consequences aren't just personal failures, they're systemic collapses waiting to happen. History shows us that civilizations fall not because of external threats, but because of internal decay. Leaders lose touch with their people, citizens lose faith in institutions, and trust erodes until nothing holds the structure together. The same principle applies to individuals. When you neglect your inner world, your outer reality begins to crumble. Relationships falter, careers stagnate, dreams dissolve, and all the while you wonder why nothing seems to go right. But there's another layer to this tragedy, the missed opportunities. Every moment spent avoiding self-awareness is a moment stolen from growth. Every decision driven by fear instead of purpose diminishes your potential. And every silenced voice in your psyche robs the world of a unique contribution only you can make. The forest isn't just a metaphor for the unconscious. It's also a symbol of untapped possibility. Somewhere deep within its tangled roots lies a seed, an idea, a passion, a vision that could change everything. But seeds don't sprout unless they're nurtured. Unless you choose to confront the shadows, dig through the soil, and plant yourself firmly in the ground of authenticity, that seed will remain buried forever. So let me ask again, how much longer will you allow these unseen consequences to shape your life? How many more years will you spend chasing hollow victories, numbing your pain, and ignoring the whispers of your soul? Because the truth is, the throne isn't just waiting for you, it's calling to you. It knows your name, your fears, your desires. It sees the potential you've buried beneath layers of doubt and shame, and it won't stop calling until you answer. But answering requires more than resolve. It demands rebellion. Rebellion against the narratives that tell you who you should be. Rebellion against the systems that profit from your disconnection. Rebellion against the parts of yourself that resist change. Only then can you begin to dismantle the invisible chains that bind you and step into the light of true sovereignty. The forest is no longer silent. Its whispers have grown into a roar, demanding your attention. You can feel the ground trembling beneath your feet, as if the earth itself is urging you to act. This is the moment of rebellion, the point at which you must choose between remaining a prisoner of your own making or seizing the throne that awaits. But rebellion isn't just an act of defiance, it's a radical reclamation of self. It begins not with grand gestures, but with small, deliberate steps toward freedom. And the first step is this: stop running. Running takes many forms. Some run from pain, numbing themselves with distractions and addictions. Others run from responsibility, blaming circumstances or other people for their unhappiness. Still others run from authenticity, hiding behind masks crafted to please the world. Whatever form it takes, running keeps you trapped in cycles of reaction rather than creation. To break free, you must turn and face what you've been fleeing. This doesn't mean diving headlong into chaos. It means approaching it with intention, curiosity, and courage. Carl Jung called this process individuation, the journey of becoming whole by integrating all aspects of the psyche. It's not easy, nor is it quick, but every step brings you closer to sovereignty. Start with stillness. In a world obsessed with noise, silence feels dangerous. Yet within silence lies clarity. Sit quietly each day, even if only for 10 minutes. Close your eyes, breathe deeply, and listen, not to external sounds but to the voice within. At first it may speak in fragments, offering glimpses of buried emotions or forgotten dreams. Over time, its messages will grow clearer, guiding you toward truths you've avoided. Stillness teaches you to distinguish between the ego's chatter and the self's wisdom. It reminds you that power isn't about constant action. It's about knowing when to pause and reflect. Next, embrace vulnerability. Society tells us that vulnerability is weakness, but nothing could be further from the truth. Vulnerability is strength, the kind that comes from exposing your raw, unfiltered self to the world. Brené Brown, whose work echoes Jungian principles, argues that vulnerability is the birthplace of creativity, connection, and meaning. When you allow yourself to be seen, to admit fear, doubt, and imperfection, you create space for growth. A king doesn't hide behind armor. He wears his scars proudly, knowing they are proof of battles fought and lessons learned. Now confront your shadow. This is where rebellion gets uncomfortable. The shadow isn't just your darkest impulses. It's also the parts of yourself you've disowned because they didn't fit societal norms. Perhaps you suppressed anger, believing it made you unkind. Or maybe you denied ambition, thinking it selfish. These rejected pieces don't vanish. They linger, influencing your behavior in ways you don't understand. To integrate them, you must acknowledge their existence without judgment. Write them down, speak them aloud, or explore them through art. By doing so, you reclaim their energy, transforming shame into strength. As you delve deeper, challenge the narratives that have shaped your identity. Who told you that success equals happiness? That vulnerability equals weakness? That purpose equals productivity? Question everything. Nietzsche once wrote, "He who has a why to live can bear almost any how." Your why won't come from outside. It must arise from within. Reflect on moments when you felt most alive, most aligned with your true self. What were you doing? Who were you with? Use these memories as guideposts, steering you toward a life of authenticity. This process requires discipline, a word often misunderstood. Discipline isn't punishment, it's commitment. It's showing up every day, even when motivation wanes. It's choosing long-term fulfillment over short-term gratification. Build rituals that nurture your mind, body, and spirit. Read books that challenge your perspective. Move your body in ways that honor its strength and resilience. Surround yourself with people who inspire you to grow, not shrink. Discipline creates structure, and structure provides stability, a foundation upon which you can build your kingdom. History offers examples of those who rebelled against convention to forge their own paths. Consider Marcus Aurelius, Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, who ruled one of history's greatest empires while practicing humility and introspection. His meditations reveal a man grappling with power, mortality, and purpose, a king who understood that true leadership starts within. Or think of Harriet Tubman, who defied slavery not just physically but psychologically, reclaiming her autonomy and leading others to freedom. These figures weren't born extraordinary. They became so by embracing the unknown, confronting their fears, and committing to lives of meaning. Yet rebellion isn't solely individual, it's collective. As you heal yourself, you contribute to the healing of society. Every act of authenticity inspires others to do the same. Every instance of courage weakens the grip of conformity. And every expression of compassion chips away at the walls of division. The forest doesn't exist in isolation. It's part of a larger ecosystem. So too are you. Your transformation ripples outward, affecting everyone you encounter. But beware. Rebellion comes with resistance. The ego will fight back, tempting you to return to old patterns. Society may ridicule your choices, labeling them impractical or naive. Even loved ones might resist your change, fearing it disrupts the status quo. Stay firm. Remember why you started this journey. Recall the emptiness of living without purpose, the weight of ignoring your soul's call. Let these memories fuel your resolve. And finally, remember this. Rebellion isn't about perfection. You won't always get it right, and that's okay. Growth is messy, non-linear, and unpredictable. What matters is progress, not perfection. Each step forward, no matter how small, moves you closer to the throne. Each act of self-awareness strengthens your claim to sovereignty. You're ready now. The whispers have become a symphony, guiding you toward the clearing where the throne awaits. But before you sit, there's one final truth to uncover. A revelation so profound it will redefine everything you thought you knew about power, purpose, and the human condition. You step into the clearing, and there it stands, the throne. It is not what you expected. Gone are the gilded edges and velvet cushions of childish fantasies. This throne is raw, unpolished, carved from the same ancient wood as the forest itself. Its surface bears the marks of time, scratches, cracks, imperfections that tell stories of storms weathered and battles fought. As you approach, you realize something profound. The throne wasn't waiting for you to claim it. It was waiting for you to become it. This is the ultimate truth, the final revelation that shatters all illusions about power and purpose. Sovereignty isn't a destination, it's an embodiment. A king doesn't rule because he sits on a throne. He becomes the throne itself. He transforms his very being into a vessel of order, meaning, and service. And here lies the paradox. True power isn't about domination or control. It's about surrender. Surrender to the self, to the greater forces that shape existence, to the interconnected web of life that binds us all. Only by relinquishing the ego's need for supremacy can one truly lead. Carl Jung understood this deeply. He spoke of the archetype of the king not as a tyrant, but as a symbol of wholeness, a unification of opposites within the psyche. Light and shadow, masculine and feminine, chaos and order, all must coexist in dynamic balance. When these forces are integrated, they create harmony both within and without. But integration requires sacrifice. You must let go of who you thought you were, the personas crafted to please others, the narratives constructed to explain your pain, the illusions built to shield you from reality. In their place, you discover the authentic self, raw and untamed, yet infinitely more powerful. Now consider the implications of this truth. If sovereignty arises from surrender, then leadership is less about exerting will and more about aligning with the natural flow of life. Think of water. It does not fight obstacles but flows around them, finding its path through persistence and adaptability. Similarly, a true leader doesn't impose their vision upon the world. They listen, observe, and respond with wisdom. They understand that every action has consequences, every decision ripples outward, and every moment carries the potential for transformation. But here's the deeper insight. The throne isn't just for kings or even for individuals. It exists within everyone, regardless of title or status. Every human being carries the capacity for sovereignty, for mastery over their own life. Yet most never realize this potential because they've been conditioned to believe power resides outside themselves, in wealth, authority, or approval. The modern world perpetuates this myth, encouraging endless striving while neglecting the inner work required to wield power responsibly. The result is a collective disconnection where people chase external markers of success but remain hollow inside. To reclaim the throne, we must redefine what it means to be powerful. Power isn't measured by how much you accumulate, but by how deeply you connect with yourself, with others, with the earth beneath your feet. It's found in acts of creation, compassion, and courage. It's expressed through vulnerability, humility, and service. Consider the words of Mahatma Gandhi. The best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others. A king understands this instinctively. To lead is to serve, not out of obligation, but out of love. Love for the world, for humanity, for the fragile beauty of existence itself. And yet this realization brings another layer of complexity. If power is rooted in connection, then isolation becomes its greatest enemy. Modern society glorifies independence, urging individuals to pull themselves up by their bootstraps and go it alone. But true strength lies in interdependence, the recognition that we are part of something larger than ourselves. Just as trees in the forest draw sustenance from shared roots, so too do humans thrive when they nurture relationships built on trust and mutual support. Solitude has its place, but it cannot replace community. Even the mightiest king needs advisors, allies, companions to share the burden of leadership. This understanding carries profound implications for how we navigate life's challenges. Pain, loss, failure. These aren't punishments or signs of inadequacy. They're invitations to grow. Viktor Frankl taught us that suffering ceases to be meaningless when it serves a higher purpose. When faced with adversity, ask yourself, what can I learn from this? How can I use this experience to contribute to the greater good? By reframing struggle as opportunity, you transform hardship into fuel for transformation. Now look back at the journey you've taken. From the edge of the forest to the heart of the clearing, you've confronted shadows, unraveled conditioning, and embraced vulnerability. Each step brought you closer to the throne, yet the throne was always within you. It existed in the quiet moments of stillness, in the courage to face your fears, in the commitment to live authentically. The forest wasn't a test to pass, it was a mirror reflecting your deepest truths. So here is the final, most powerful realization. The throne isn't a reward, it's a responsibility. To sit upon it is to accept the weight of your own existence, to take ownership of your thoughts, emotions, actions, and their impact on the world. It's to recognize that every choice matters, every word carries weight, every gesture ripples outward, and it's to understand that the true measure of power isn't how many people follow you, but how many lives you touch with kindness, integrity, and grace. As you settle into the throne, feel its rough edges pressing against your skin. These imperfections remind you that sovereignty isn't about perfection, it's about presence. Presence to the beauty and brutality of life, to the light and shadow within yourself, to the infinite possibilities of each new day. The forest whispers one last message before falling silent. You are enough. Not because of what you've achieved, but because of who you are. A flawed, magnificent, endlessly evolving expression of the universe's creative force. Carry this truth with you as you rise from the throne and step back into the world. Let it guide your decisions, shape your interactions, and illuminate your path. For now, you are no longer lost in the forest. You are the forest and the king who guards it.